6 o'clock. It's time to begin our planning and zoning meeting for 12/5/24. We're going to forego the invocation and pledge to the flag, as this looks like it's going to be a long evening. So I would ask everyone to silence your cell phone. I would also ask everyone, when someone is at the podium speaking, give them their 5 minutes of time or whatever. This is not a pep rally, so please, let's have a little decorum. So with that being said, first item of business under old business is application 24-32Z. Thomas D. Wilson Jr., Minerva Land LLC, 3220 North McDonough Road, Griffin, approximately 562 acres located in land lot 115, 116, 141, 142, 143, 147, 148, 149 of the second land district. Parcel numbers 201 01001, 201 01001A, 201 01001B, 210 0101D, 200 01001, 200 01006, 200 0101B, and 201 0101F. This applicant is requesting a rezoning from R2 and AR2 to Village Node VN. Do you have someone here to speak for this? Name and address for the record.
Yep.
Sure. Just move this part. It'll pick you up.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, correct. Okay, sorry, guys. I'm Brian Davison of 2292 Henderson Mill Road, Atlanta. We were here last month, showed you our initial land plan that we've proposed for this property. At the time, I gave you a lot of the background of the growth progressing towards us from the north. It's pretty obvious that we're directly in the path of that, and for that matter, Spalding is in the path of it as a whole. It's a roughly 540 acre family farm. Family's owned it since most of the property since 1920. Over the years, they have carved off some mini farms, primarily on the backside, on Amelia Road, Apple Road, and I think Luella Road as well. So a lot of those people that are on those mini farms are here today as well. This is our basic request in front of you here, and we've tried to keep it as simple as possible. Basically, we had a plan, met with the residents. They had a scattering of different issues. I'm sure you might hear of some, hopefully less tonight. One of the biggest ones, I think, was the amount of traffic that would empty out onto Amelia Road at the rear. So we did an absolute massive redesign of the entire layout, and I'll show you that as I walk through. You know, the goal always in these is to try to understand what everybody's issues are, try to accommodate as many as we possibly can, but like everything, you just can't accommodate every desire for everybody. Let's see. Okay, super important to realize is we are 100% in compliance with your own long-range plan that you've done less than 24 months ago. It was a huge process studying the county as a whole and dedicated and targeted this entire area as a area for basically medium density master plan community housing, 1 to 4 units per acre. Our proposal is 2.19 units per acre, so it's actually the low end of that range. And we have given you a list of every single thing that's in your comprehensive plan, and we are in compliance with absolutely 100% of every single point. I'm not sure there's anything else we can do that would be more in compliance with what the county indicated as their desires. Here's the plan. You all know it, I'm sure, but that red area is roughly where the property is in the northeast corner. That orange area was designated as high as 4 units per acre, and then the density tapers off. And the county basically tried to focus the development in a very small area and try to keep the majority of the county rural. This was the original plan. I don't know if you can see it. Had a main road coming through that connected to Amelia Road, and that was one of the big problems everybody had, was the amount of potential traffic that could come through there. And here is the revised plan. And I'll kind of walk through all the changes we made one by one, and I'll try to go through them quickly. First thing, we removed 45 acres from the plan. That parcel that you see there, that's down the south end, further down Amelia Road. We totally eliminated the connection to Amelia Road on that side. We created acreage lots fronting on Amelia. It was another issue for everybody having I think the original design had houses backing up to that road. They've been, one of the directions was, can we please make them acreage and try to maintain the same character that's along there. We still have one piece of land on the east side of Amelia that has to come out of Amelia. In one of the early meetings, the request was made. We've honored it to make that an age-restricted area to try to minimize the amount of traffic. 55 and older people have far less lower traffic patterns and non-rush hour patterns, which will help as well. I think that, you'll hear from everybody, I think that's probably, that piece of land there is still one of the hanging issues. I think everybody would prefer we just don't develop it or develop it into some mini farms or something. It's a little hard to see at the scale, but we talked to the Henry County Reservoir Manager. Spalding doesn't have a buffer ordinance for proximity to the reservoir. It does for all the perennial streams to the property, which we've honored, but we were fairly close to the reservoir. They flagged it, and so we just voluntarily pulled back. So we're actually honoring Henry County's buffer zone, even though it doesn't technically apply in Spalding, just out of good faith just to Henry. That circle there was 210 townhomes when we started. We've eliminated the townhomes, replaced it with 86 single-family lots, so there's no townhomes remaining in the plan. In the core of the property, we've created a central green connected into the heart of retail, trying to create a village core, kids playing in the park, but able to walk into some of the shops and that sort of thing. Trying to make it as pedestrian-focused as we can, which was a big concern of a few of the commissioners. And another issue that we had from the Planning Commission was the cul-de-sac design that we had. So we did a fundamental change and changed it to a grid-style road, eliminated 27 cul-de-sacs through the property. So that allowed us to eliminate 1 or 2 of the variances. And lastly, we increased the open space up to 199 acres, which is 38% of the total property. So, all of these things are dramatic changes. I think the biggest and probably the most dramatic one is to not connect the traffic through the main property out onto Amelia Road. And I guess we'll hear from everybody else if they appreciate those efforts or if they want to continue to have other issues. That's it. I think that's it. So.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to leave something up here for?
Okay. Hold on just a second. Do we have any questions from any of the commissioners up here? Okay.
Not now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have someone signed up to speak?
Yes, sir, we do. Mr. Danny Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert, if you'll state your name and your address for the record, please.
It's Daniel Gilbert, 1121 Amelia Road. Good evening to y'all. Tonight, I would like to discuss a few seeming improprieties that we as a group of residents from Amelia, Apple, and Sam Solomon Roads would like to address concerning the zoning variance and special exemption request. Many of us have attempted to contact the Community Development Office as well as the county commissioners and have not gotten responses. Yet emails that were sent in good faith were not only ignored, but were forwarded to Minerva. It was only after our opposition became evident that Minerva responded, leading to a meeting with Mr. Davison. This makes one thing pretty clear. There was no intention to engage with us, the residents that will be directly affected by this project, until our opposition became inconvenient. I would also like to mention that Mr. William Wilson and Mr. Chad Jacobs, both of whom previously held positions in Spalding County government, were on the steering committee for the 2042 Spalding Comprehensive Plan that was mentioned earlier, which designates this area for high-density housing. Now, both stand to gain significantly from the sale of this property pending the zoning and variance approval. I'm making no accusations whatsoever of wrongdoing, but concerning their involvement in county planning, it has a very questionable look. In 2016, Mr. Jacobs was instrumental in getting a variance application denied for my dad, who was trying to have a second house built on a 17-acre parcel on Amelia Road for my elderly grandmother. The concern of the board, according to the November 10, 2016 minutes from this meeting, was that approval of his request to build a second house on the property would be, and I will quote, setting a precedent which would have a negative impact on the area. Now, the company Mr. Jacobs represents is trying to get a variance to build 4 houses per acre for a community targeting senior citizens. Should this variance get approved, it would have not just a negative impact on the area, it would completely devastate it. It would also be a permanent testament to the inequity with which government treats everyday citizens versus powerful corporate interests that have become too cozy with local officials. On that note, after the close of the last meeting on October 29th, Mr. Yeomans was witnessed exiting the meeting room behind closed doors of Mr. Davison, leaving through a back door with an applicant where a member of the general public will not be given the same privilege, gives the impression that preferential treatment is being given and violates the trust of Spalding County residents that count on this board to render unbiased and impartial recommendations. Perception may not be reality. There may not be as many forces against us as it may seem, but it appears that corporate interests and increased tax revenue will trump the general will of the people that call this area home. Our desire is simple: to preserve the charm, character, and integrity of our community by keeping high-density housing out. We urge this board to ensure fairness, transparency, accountability, and to prioritize the voices of the residents who call this community home. Thank you very much for your time.
Amanda Gilbert.
Hi, I'm Amanda, and I live at 1121 Amelia Road. I'm here to voice my serious concerns for the North Talladega Village No development. There are several pressing environmental and safety issues that must be addressed. As you can see in your packet, Henry County is having trouble working with Spalding County to enforce soil and erosion best management practices. This is a significant issue that cannot be overlooked. Both counties need to collaborate effectively, especially in light of the trails in this area. Henry County says that there will need to be increased patrols on the trails which are not accessible by car or truck, which is bad for emergency response. That's the worries of the Henry County Water Authority. The counties would have to work together, which they are currently having trouble doing. Additionally, The proposed development fails to address the lack of fencing, which would create further safety risks. There is also the matter of runoff. Development in this area would likely increase the runoff, particularly impacting the creeks that run through the mitigation property and Long Trail. This runoff could ultimately affect the entire trail system, causing increased damage during floods, which would extend to local homeowners as well. Another serious concern is the environmental impact. Area is home to a wide variety of wildlife, including, but not limited to, possums, raccoons, deer, wild boar, eagles, hawks, coyotes, and bobcat. Development would result in the loss of hundreds of acres of habitat, exposing wildlife to toxins, increasing competition, and potentially endangering local populations. The removal of trees and vegetation would not only disturb the habitats of these animals, but also eliminate the many benefits that the natural landscape provides, such as mitigating the effects of sun and wind, restoring carbon, enhancing aesthetic value, and most importantly, reducing stormwater runoff and soil erosion, which directly impacts the health of our reservoirs. We found this important when talking to an expert with the Water Authority who stated that the large amount of acreage preserved is undevelopable land. Minerva is utilizing the floodplains, wetlands, and aquatic resources as open space. When the preserved land and green space is the only place to recreate, then there will be an increase in the foot traffic and pollution on this area, which results in the space not functioning as the riparian buffer that is critical to protecting our aquatic resources. This expert also made it clear that once pollution enters the surface water, it's as good as in the lake. Even though development may be monitored, private activities by residents, such as oil spills, pesticide use, and improper waste disposal, won't be under close supervision, increasing the risk of contamination. Finally, I would like to highlight the concerns raised by experts from the Henry County Water Authority regarding the 2018 inundation map. Many of the properties in this area fall within an evacuation zone. If a dam were to fail and release the water it normally holds back, the areas marked in pink on the map would be flooded.
Okay, you're running close on your time. Wrap it up.
This is an issue I feel is crucial to bring to your attention. Building in that area puts local residents at risk in the event of a failure, and it is critical that we consider the safety of residents before proceeding with a development in such a high-risk area. While dam failure may be a rare occurrence, as Helene has showed us, rare occurrences do happen. It would be an embarrassment to Spalding County and a travesty to the residents if a failure ever happened and the county and developer knowingly put a large amount of citizens in a potential flood area, risking their properties and lives. In conclusion, there are significant environmental and safety concerns that need to be addressed. The combination of inadequate enforcement of BMPs, potential flooding risk, loss of wildlife habitat, increased runoff, and the risk posed by the dam all make it clear that this development is not suitable for this area. So I urge the zoning board to vote no.
Karen Stone.
Karen Stone, 820 Amelia. I have serious concerns about how this development could impact our environment and our community. The environmental risks outlined in the Henry County Water and Sewage Authority's Watershed Protection Ordinance. The ordinance clearly states that development can have an impact on natural systems, particularly in terms of stormwater runoff. The runoff can create erosion and sedimentation, which threatens the storage of the reservoir. More importantly, it can introduce toxic substances, nutrients, and other contaminants into our drinking water. They're not just hypothetical risks. They are real and have a long-term consequence. The land involved in this development is located within Henry County's water quality critical area and limited development area. According to the Watershed Protection Ordinance, lots within the water quality area should be no smaller than 1.5 acres. Yet, several lots in this proposed plan are much smaller than this requirement. In the limited area, lots can be as small as 0.4 acres if certain qualifications are met and the net density is no greater than 1.75 units per acre. However, The proposed development has a density of 2.19 units per acre, which exceeds the allowable density. At the first community meeting, we raised these concerns with Mr. Davison, who assured us that Henry County has strong guidelines in place to protect the drinking water, and that Spalding County has adopted many of those guidelines. Within Spalding County, where overlay districts exist, they're required to follow more stringent guidelines. I challenge Spalding County to take a stand for the highest standards of water protection, to not allow variances that compromise water quality, choose the safest and most restrictive guidelines to safeguard our state's drinking water for future generations. Spalding County has a precedent currently for housing density bordering water authority control property. According to the Spalding County Tax Assessor's website, no property bordering the Henry County Water Authority is smaller than 1 acre currently. That includes Heron Bay, where Minerva, by their
Okay,
design...
You've used your time. Thank you.
Can I just finish this paragraph, please? No one in Heron Bay, but that includes Heron Bay, where Minerva, by their design actions, helped build a precedent. If we allow a variance here and approve smaller lots bordering Henry County Water Authority's property, we risk setting a dangerous precedent for the entire county. Thank you.
Julie Robinson.
Julie Robinson, 540 Amelia Road. Now, as Mr. Davison has already said, that this development does completely comply with your comprehensive plan. However, we all know that that comprehensive plan wasn't a blanket approval for all of those rezonings. With that being said, here for this particular situation, the variances are not justified. According to the Memorandum of Understanding concerning variances by Spalding County, it clearly states that all of the requirements of this ordinance must be met to justify a variance. One requirement is that the hardship cannot be self-created. A claim of hardship of speculated sales is not a hardship, which is exactly what we have here, a speculated sale of land. Also, there is a requirement that states that it must not cause substantial detriment to the public good. We are all here, you've already heard some of it, and you'll hear more details to explain how this is a substantial detriment for the public good. Also, when a variance is issued, the spirit of this ordinance must be observed and the public safety and welfare secured. As the speakers before me and some that will be after me will outline, the public safety and welfare is not secured with this variance. Also, when asked at a community meeting to Mr. Davidson, what would happen to the lots, the spots there on Amelia Road if this variance isn't granted? And he very nonchalantly answered, well, those residents would just have a little more yard to keep up and we'd have a few less homes to build. That absolutely means that is not a hardship. Also, on page 18 of the application under staff recommendations for zoning, it is mentioned that the county already has a similar development at Grayson Park. Well, Mr. Davidson himself said, well, no one is happy with the way Grayson Park is going. And when pressed, we asked him, how can we be assured that the problems of Grayson Park would not happen here? And he could not offer any hard, real evidence. So why would Spalding County repeat that mistake? And finally, I have a direct quote from that same spot, staff recommendation on the portion of the application. Here's the quote. The annual and even one-time fee revenue benefits are hard to ignore. On the application, it says revenue benefits are hard to ignore.
You need to wrap it up. You've used your time.
My response, is it? Is it hard to ignore? Is money the real reason why we are all here? Thank you.
Rachel Stroud. Rachel Stroud.
Rachel Stroud, 550 Amelia Road. I am just one of nearly 250 proud members of the Griffin Gun Club, a cornerstone of this community that has supported not just our members, but also their families and countless local organizations for generations. Our facilities host a variety of activities that go far beyond recreation. We support schools that use our fields for practice, provide opportunities for youth programs like 4-H, and welcome national organizations such as the Single Action Shooting Society, National Skeet Shooting Association, USPSA, and more. These events we host draw participants from across the country, bringing both recognition and economic support to this area. Through programs at the Griffin Gun Club, young people have earned scholarships and even gone on to achieve national rankings in shooting sports. I'm among those fortunate individuals who owe my achievement to the opportunities that this club has provided since I was a child. Without the Griffin Gun Club, I would not be where I am today in this industry, now holding an online presence that reaches millions monthly, educating and encouraging folks to take an active role in their own personal protection. I say all of this as to point out that as developers continue to consume the land in our rural communities, they often pay little to no attention to the activities and interests that the current neighbors hold. This one in particular is asking to move in right next to a range. But tonight, I am not just here as a member of the Griffin Gun Club. I stand with the residents that you've already heard from and those that you will hear from. Families who have built their lives around the rural lifestyle that makes this area of Spalding County special. You will hear from people who have recently moved here seeking refuge from exactly the kind of overdevelopment that is now being proposed. And you've heard from a family who came before this very committee with a hardship, seeking a variance to care for an elderly relative, only to be denied in the name of setting a precedent. Yet now we are faced with a proposal for a massive high-density development, one that would fundamentally alter the character of this community. The requested variances for the North Tawalaga Village node would set far more than a devastating precedent, one of unsustainable development at the expense of the people who call this place home. This proposal comes from a group that has shown little regard for the negative impacts that their developments have already had on this area. If approved, it will erode the rural charm and close-knit community that we cherish, replacing it with congestion, noise, and irreversible damage to our way of life. I urge this committee to consider the long-term consequences of this decision. We must prioritize projects that enhance the well-being of our community, not compromise it in the name of rapid development. Please join me in opposing this rezoning request, and together, hopefully, we'll see a good future. Thank you.
Nick Hersey.
My name's Nick Hersey. This is my wife, Leslie Hersey. We live at 800 Amelia Road, and we have lots that we'd like to say on this matter, but didn't want to rush through it, so we signed up together. First and foremost, wanted to thank all of you for your counsel in the previous meeting to get to know our commissioners. Unfortunately, only one of them was willing to meet with us, but Clay Davis was a wealth of information and helped me to understand both the comprehensive plan as well as maybe some ways that Minerva is trying to stick to it and possibly also not. My family moved here from Atlanta in the late 50s and early 60s and built and operated both Dairy Queens and the Callaway Motel. They were drawn here because of the people and the rural atmosphere. Long story short, eventually they moved to Florida to retire. My grandfather is one of my old-time heroes. He owned and operated the Dairy Queen on the west side, and as he became more elderly, he was unable to live by himself. And my wife and I decided for him to live with us. He made it very clear that he wasn't interested in moving away from Florida, but that the only place he would consider is Griffin, because, and I quote, "The people and community there are the most pleasant of anywhere I've ever lived." So we decided to move from North Atlanta to Spalding County a few years ago. My grandfather has since passed away, and now we're left deciding whether we want to stay in Spalding County. We agreed to move here because of the rural appeal, and to be quite frank, we were tired of the big city life and of suburbia. We chose a place with acreage and easy access to the interstate, so we could still maintain our careers and honor my grandfather's wishes. Now, Spalding County's comprehensive plan is riddled with language about being strategic and creating appeal for young professionals to move here with their children and for the children to want to stay living here as they grow. If you want to appeal to us, you need to be intentional about maintaining the rural appearance as the comprehensive plan suggests in order to keep people like myself here. Because to be perfectly honest, I represent the demographic your plan says you want to appeal to. And unfortunately, Minerva and Mr. Davison has shown a complete disregard for any ideas I suggest to help maintain the goals of the comprehensive plan by attracting people like myself to move to Spalding County. That said, as a small business owner and a clinician, it is absolutely necessary that I am futuristic and strategic in everything I do professionally. Otherwise, I will fail at my business and fail my clients and patients. Unfortunately, I do not see Spalding County being strategic and future-oriented in their planning as they allow developments like this to be approved without adequately addressing the infrastructure to sustain the growth. Cherokee and Fayette counties had enough foresight to do so in their planning, and look how they compare to the other metro counties since the construction boom in the 80s. I think we can all agree to that. Planning committees and county commissioners are by definition responsible for operating and developing the business of the community. And just like any other business, if it cannot keep up with the demand of its customers, it will fail. Infrastructure-related areas that need to be focused on prior to massive developments
Okay, you're running out
include.
of time. Go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay, so my wife will get to speak next then?
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll finish up. So the last of it is about the infrastructure-related areas that need to be focused on prior. Yeah, sure. My name's Leslie Hersey. I live at 800 Amelia Road. So infrastructure-related areas that need to be focused on prior to massive developments include hospitals and their overall capacities, first responders. We had to call EMS multiple times when our grandfather was living with us. And it took them well over 30 minutes to respond each time. As everybody knows, time is of the essence when you're looking, in an emergency situation. Some other ones are power grid, watershed management, waste disposal systems, road systems. 155 and Jackson is already a nightmare even during non-peak hours. The academic facilities, because let's be honest, what young professional is going to want to move to a community that they don't feel comfortable putting their children in its schools? I can attest to that. My children live in Fayette County with their stepdad because I would not put them in Spalding County schools. If these areas are not addressed prior to mass development, it could easily cause a financial crisis in this county. Clay Davis was kind enough to meet with me, my husband, and share some of his vision for the future of our county. He was able to help me understand the need for an increase in affordable housing for teachers and officers. That is where the developers need to be focusing their efforts on right now, because this will enable professionals to both live and work in Spalding County rather than commuting elsewhere. And these professionals have no interest in being in a quote rural area with a neighbor 15 feet on either side of them. Yes, growth is inevitable and likely wanted by most so that we can share the burden of cost to maintain. But if it is not properly managed with enough strategic and futuristic planning, then the goals laid out in the comprehensive plan cannot be attained without failure. I suggest a moratorium on major developments like this in the Sun City and Heron Bay character area, as identified in the comprehensive plan, until a realistic and achievable plan is in place for addressing our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Bagwell. Larry Bagwell. Lacey McLeod.
Hello, Lacey McLeod, 30 Apple Road. Um, so I've been a resident of Spalding County for 30 years at my home. I grew up off of the east side of Highway 155 in Decatur, graduated from Southwest DeKalb High School in '83, and I've moved 3 times, this being my 4th time in my life, to where I am now and have been for 30 years. I chose to be planted on the west side of Highway 155 as a single mother raising 2 daughters, ages 4 and 8, and that was at my age of 30, our little safe haven. Each evening we would go for long walks, take bike rides down the dirt and gravel roads. Neighbors always knew when the little blonde and redhead came knocking on the front door that Spalding School System's fundraisers were in full force. Let me tell you this community was unbelievably supportive each and every year, and I thank y'all for that. I asked my girls what comes to mind when they think about being raised here, and both of them said, I always felt safe and I always felt peace at home. My daughters attended Jordan Hill Elementary, Taylor Street Middle, and are graduates of Spalding High School, first graduating class of Spalding, my oldest. I made the decision to raise the girls away from the high crime and congestion of the city life, and I've never regretted it. There's something truly special about the experience of rural living, and I am so thankful that they and I got to experience that and are experiencing that. But tonight, I'm standing here in disbelief that such a reckless proposal from Minerva is even being considered to potentially replace the quiet natural beauty that makes this area so unique. 3 years after I made the decision to make Apple Road my home, I was driving home from worked in Stockbridge, turned left onto Frog Road, and suddenly I was literally and honestly enveloped in a vibrant, fluttering cloud of butterflies. This was like a living kaleidoscope of color swirling around me. I stopped my car, cracked my windows, and their delicate wings were dancing against the wind. I was surrounded by a magical moment, signifying freedom, joy, love, and dreams. From that very moment, I learned to appreciate moments to sit on my back deck and listen to the calls of the birds, the calming sound of natural wind, and the sound of blowing trees and leaves rustling around to find their place. Not the constant hum of traffic or the noise of construction on these few quiet, narrow, winding roads. This isn't just a bad idea to those of us who live here. It's a bad idea for the entire county. It'll strain our natural resources, stress our public services, and strip Spalding County of its natural, beautiful charm. Once it's built, there's no undoing it. The quiet, safe, and peaceful life that each one of us here has built will be gone, replaced by traffic, noise, and
Okay.
strip malls.
Wrap it up. Time's up.
So, for over 30 years, I paid taxes, supported local businesses, the school system, and have served each and every time I've been summoned to jury duty. I've contributed to this community because I believed in what it stood for. Please don't let this project erase everything that makes this area special. Let's protect what makes our county unique by prioritizing responsible, sustainable growth, not the kind that paves over our way of life for a temporary profit, only to result in ruin. God bless you all. God bless Spalding County and my community, and thank you.
Lee Peterson. Lee Peterson. Bob Bodron.
Bob Bodron, 1400 Birdie Road. I don't live in the vicinity of this development, but I'm over here every week and almost every single weekend driving into the area, and so I have a lot of attachment to this area where this development's gonna go, and it seems like, the rural character of the community, could be preserved with a different type of planning, instead of going all the way from green to bright red here with a massive development. But the impacts of this thing that worry me the most are traffic in the area. It's already a disaster coming through the 155 Jackson Road interchange. It's a disaster up on the other end of 155 too. I have a lot of friends and activities up that direction too. And it seems like this is too much. It's too big of a change to make right now, to put all these new houses into this area. The roads will not support it. We're looking at years of construction traffic on the roads, and the new volume of traffic would be just worse and worse than what it is now. So I think that this is too big of a change for the area. I'd like to see the rural nature of the area preserved. Thank you.
Could Tanya Moore? Could Tanya Moore? All right, thank you. Marie Powell?
My name is Marie Powell. I'm a taxpayer and voter living at 159 Sam Solomon Road. My husband and I have lived there for 9 years, and we chose to live here because of the charm of the area. We lived in Stockbridge, high density, and we wanted to get away from that so we could live our dream, retired. I agree with everything that people before had said, and I believe that this is a project, a plan gone wrong to put high density in an area of low density. So, to be brief, it's a plan gone wrong. Thank you.
Chris Gruber? Chris Gruber? Mike Parrish?
Good evening. My name is Michael Parrish. I live at 895 Amelia Road. I spoke to you last time, and I told you last time I looked you all in the eyes and I asked you to do what you should, and I was proud to say that you did. This year I voted in Spalding County for the first time. That's the second proudest I've ever been of being a Spalding County resident. The most proud I've been was last time when this group and one other voted to table this. You made the right decision. You listened to the people you represent. This just doesn't fit. That's what the last person said. That's what I ended with last time. This simply doesn't fit here. And I can appreciate Mr. Jacobs saying, well, we gave up 45 acres. And we gave up that road through Amelia. Now, when we've got 50 people, or 75, or 100, you guys should get more chairs because we're not going to stop coming. Next year, the year after that, when they start building this development and they outnumber us, they're going to come before this board. Mark my words. They will use those 45 acres. They will come to you and ask to use those 45 acres. They will come to you and ask to use that road. They will come to you and change those big acreage lots that they don't sell because they're going to overprice them. They're going to break them down and fit 5 on an acre. That's what they're going to ask you. Mark my words. You're going to hear it, and I'm going to stand here and tell you, I told you so. The onus is not on us to show that they don't deserve the exemption. The onus is on Mr. Jacobs to show he does. I don't challenge you. I dare you. Ask him what the hardship is. Every one of you, I dare you. Mr. Harris, I'm going to look at you because I know you will do. Ask him what that exemption is. Ask him what that hardship is. Is it, I'm not going to make quite enough money? Is that his hardship? Because it seems like it. I'm going to end with talking about Danny's family. That's a hardship. If you're looking for the definition of a hardship, I have a special needs family member who wants to live on my property. Can we please build a house on our 100 acres? Chad said no. You know what Chad would tell us today? All you gotta do is give me $450,000 and I can let you live across the way. Shameful. Or maybe he can just do some backdoor dealing like Mr. Jacobs does with the other people here in this county.
Mr. Parrish,
Yes, sir.
I want you to control your language a bit. You were here last time. You messed around in the back of the room and didn't get up here, and you begged to get up to speak. I let you get up to speak, and what did you do? You accused us of taking graft and bribes. Get a life, dude.
I have one.
I
And if
doubt it.
I did what you did, I would lose my job, Mr. Yeomans. It's called ex parte. I can't go and back and talk to a judge about a case, just me and him. But you did it. Shame on you
Just
too.
for your information, that was not me. He tabbed the wrong guy.
You say so.
But
You tell me who it was.
I
You know.
have no problem, dude. Just lay it out.
Don't be a coward. That's what I'm asking you. I'm out of time.
Chris Iaconis.
Good evening. My name's Chris Iconis. I reside at 950 Amelia Road in Locust Grove. I've been in this residence 30 years. I moved to this street because they had estate-sized lots, and that was the lifestyle that I wanted. And all my neighbors have this estate-style lots. They have a lot of space, but it's a very close community we've all stayed in contact with for many years. I understand that not everybody can have estate-sized lots. They don't desire it, and they don't necessarily want to pay for it, but for those that do, it's nice to have that option. I understand that the tax base is higher for high-density housing than it would be for estate-sized lots. I may differ from my neighbors. I think the Minerva plan is very good. I think it's very well done. I think it does meet all the laws. If Spalding County wanted high-density housing, that's not Spalding County. That's Metro Atlanta. 4 houses per acre is very, very dense. Minerva's met with the residents. The lots are 42 feet wide. 42 feet wide. Those are very low-income starter homes, and that's fine. Lots of places need that. But this infrastructure, the school infrastructure, the road infrastructure, the ambulance infrastructure, the hospitals, the fire, is not designed in Spalding County for that density. That density is overwhelming. The current living situation we have now has overwhelmed our infrastructure. Spalding County and that part of the county cannot handle that infrastructure. It cannot handle that density, and it's just not workable. And the infrastructure likely will not be set up for that for many, many, many years. When it is, that infrastructure will cost Spalding County as much as they're going to gain in taxes, and I just don't see this as a workable plan. Thank you.
Brenda Martin.
My name is Brenda Martin. I live at 37 Apple Road. Been there 10 years and just wanted to voice my strong opposition to this plan. It's taking away everything that we moved here to enjoy. So please vote no for this plan. Thank you.
Lloyd Martin. Denise Parrish.
Is this thing on?
Hmm?
It's Denise Parrish. I'm 895 Amelia Road. I just want to say this is my husband, and he doesn't get worked up like this usually, but this is hit our home. We actually moved here from metro area, and now we're finding ourselves trying to fight for this area on all y'all's behalf that have been here for decades. And it's heartbreaking that this is following us and we can't get away from it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Carisha Anderson. Carisha Anderson.
My name is Carisha Anderson. I reside at 6220 Union Road, Brooks, Georgia. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and let me apologize to anybody in advance if my records are not current. As of records request from 2022, from arriving into Spalding County from 2019, I am the only female-owned and operated and recognized by the state agricultural farm in Spalding County. That is the primary reason why I chose to move to this county, support this county. We support education, we support retired military, we support working with people with disabilities, and we've supported everything that we can possibly do to ensure a positive relationship with Spalding County and the board. So I appreciate the time tonight to be able to speak with you guys. I've witnessed a lot of things since 2019, and I will say congratulations for this community today for standing up to let the board know that they are supportive of conservation. I've sat in many of these meetings almost completely by myself, and it is very refreshing to see the support of the community as well as the support of the board in a positive manner to listen to the concerns of this community. I would like to know that moving forward, that hopefully from these meetings that we can have more transparency, more full disclosure, and more equality in this county, because one of the largest concerns I have seen since 2019 is that there's not the transparency. It is not equality across the board. What is recognized for larger corporations, be it Wellstar, be it larger developments here, and I understand the fact that there's a very delicate dance for support of the community for infrastructure, as well as support of the community for local residents. And that's a delicate dance, and I do not envy the position that this board probably has to sit in on a regular. So I do appreciate the job that this community does and the board members do. But I think one of the things since 2019, for myself personally, and as well as other members of the community, it would help for more transparency and more equality in knowing that the residents have the same opportunities as your larger corporations. And that's really one of the things that I would like to walk away from this with, is the opportunity that as a community we have the opportunity to work together to be a better community, to be a better place, and to just try to encourage people that if you see something, say something. Come to these meetings. Come to these meetings. These meetings are extremely important. And they're important for the board members to hear our voice, and they're important for the community to know that they're being heard. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, that's all who have signed up for this application.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, David, I guess we're ready for our staff report.
Okay, similar to October, obviously we've had a significant change in the plan, which has eliminated several things. The townhome portion, thereby negating one of the variances for rear entry to the townhomes. Also, you can see from the plan that the cul-de-sacs are gone. It has the grid pattern, therefore that variance for maximum cul-de-sac length is also gone. There's been a decrease in the number of lots, an increase more in the open space. Have, among many things in there in the staff report, conversations with Todd Bracklin and Ken Presley from the Henry County Water Authority about the buffers and their reservoir. The lots do not infringe upon the reservoir. They did put a 200-foot buffer back there. Normally it would have a 100-foot undisturbed buffer from any, even in Spalding County, the streams within a certain miles away from the reservoir. Then a 50-foot impervious setback on top of that. This adds 50 feet to that. So, as stated before, in regards to the future land use map, this is the Sun City / Heron Bay character area up in the extreme north up there. I don't know if the map's up there. It's the orange instead of the yellow. Sun City Heron Bay character area supports master plan developments intended to accommodate a mix of residential, active adult community, and single-family detached homes, commercial, and recreation uses, primarily characterized by moderate density, detached family uses with recreational amenities. You do have that on the map, on the plan there, I'm sorry. Density ranges between 1 to 4 density dwelling units per acre. You have 2.9, so it falls within that range. Moderate to high density detached single family dwellings. This is what you have here. Some commercial aspect in the front there, which has been reduced slightly from the last time. And then the next item we will talk about is the special exception for the senior assisted living facility, which has been fleshed out more than the last submittal we had. It'd basically be apartments with certain levels of care for certain levels of stages of life for those above the active 55 plus demographic. So I believe that is a much needed service in the county as well. So that's what we have.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, you got any follow-up? Y'all wanna ask anything else?
We shouldn't be talking about front access garages. If you were gonna do garages, period, they ought to be side entry or back entry. Shouldn't have any front entry. This is going to the same stuff. This is like Mullen Road. This looks like everything else that we've done out there close to schools. And the density on this, to me, is just way too much. As big a development as this is, and as much money as involved in here, and Brian and I have been working off and on as long as I've been on this board. If we don't do this right the first time, and I know that the biggest thing driving this is the county needs the tax revenue, and the county does need the tax revenue. But I don't think that I can't support it with the density that it is right now and with those garages like that. And I'm just one of 5 people.
Nick?
My problem is with the density also. I think it's out of character for the whole area. The revenue stream will be nice, but it'll also cost a lot to get that revenue stream going. And I think that it would be better to have your larger homes, less density, and a more planned in terms of growth for that. So I do not support this.
Bruce? Well, I'm gonna take a little different approach on that, but, you know, I certainly feel the people that have been out there for years, you know, I feel for you all. But you've experienced a lot out there with the growth already. I do understand that,
we're talking about a lot of additional traffic out there. But I also know that I've been on this board for many years now, and that was the area with all the stuff with Heron Bay and all the other developments that were out there, Sun City Peachtree, and other areas. That was the area in the county that we had looked at, to allow more density where we could keep most of the other areas around the county, less dense. And so, it goes along this, and again, the lady, mentioned a good point, coming to these meetings, being involved, knowing what's going on. But like I say, it's been on the, future land use map and the plans for close to 15 years, a village node. So this is nothing new. This is something that was planned and that we knew it was gonna be a dense area out there. Again, I think, we've seen in the past from what, Minerva has put out there, on their different properties, we've seen, good quality work in general, compared to some of the other, properties and, developments that we've had. So again, I think that it does make sense. If we're gonna put density, we need to keep it concentrated in the area. Again, there's always things that could be better. That was mentioned earlier. Everything can't be perfect. We can't make everybody happy. I've gone through this, myself with a subdivision right behind my house. And it is difficult, but that's what the planning's all about. And, so again, there's gonna be some other adjustments made, things done, but in general, I think we're in line with what we've been planning for. So, and it falls into place, so I really wouldn't have a big issue with it, but we'll see how things go tonight, after we vote.
Okay. I share some of the same sentiments as Mr. Ballard. For many, many years, we have targeted this area for high-density development. It's not just the latest comp plan, it goes back several comp plans. Nobody really wants anything to come between their trees and their backyard. I understand that. But as Mr. Ballard put it very well, by targeting this area, we've been able to preserve larger areas within the county as a rural look and feel. And the thing that seems to be overlooked here is the current landowner has his own development rights as well. And so I see that the work in general that Minerva does is good. It's as good as anything in the county, really. And so I am supportive of that. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to deny.
I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. 2-2.
That's no decision. It'll go to the board with no recommendation.
Just as a matter of clarification, this board is an advisory board. They do a recommendation only. The Board of Commissioners, of course, makes final decisions. I believe the next Board of Commissioners meeting on this will be January 23rd. The signs, the ad, everything will be adjusted accordingly. They'll be taken down for the time being and then put up again with the correct date, but that should, I believe, be the zoning hearing for Board of Commissioners in January. It's always that last or the fourth Thursday of the month. But I will clarify that, but that is when a binding decision could possibly be made on this in late January. So.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is application 24-31S, Thomas D. Wilson Jr., Minerva Land LLC, 3220 North McDonald Road, Griffin, Georgia, approximately 562 acres, located in land lot 147 of the Second Land District. parcel number 201-01001D. The applicant is requesting special exception for an age-targeted, age 55 and older living facility to be permitted, possibly including independent living facility, assisted living facility, personal care home, nursing home, or seniors apartments, which shall be subject to the maximum height limitation of 60 feet with an approved fire sprinkler system. Do we have someone here to speak to that?
Hi, Brian Davis again. This is a component of the property fronting on Highway 155, basically up next to the liquor store that was approved some years ago. The intention is to do a senior housing community, which includes independent living apartments, assisted living, and then additional memory care and physical care as well. Your ordinance requires maximum building size for those of 24 units per building, and obviously it's a single complex. People move around, and all the medical and care facilities are all within one thing. So that's the reason for this request. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, no one has signed up for this application.
Okay. Let's move ahead with the staff report.
Okay, like I said, this has been fleshed out a lot better than the last time. Now, this is dependent upon the zoning. If there's a rezoning is approved, this would be a special exception within that village node zoning. This cannot exist without the rezoning. So if that doesn't go, then this can no longer be a special exception. It would be AR1, I believe, or R2. So it would not be allowed there. So this, of course, is conditional upon the zoning. In general, this is more what it would be like, roughly 250, as he said, units for independent living, more dependent living, and then the final stages of care and life under one roof, probably include independent living apartments, assisted living units, plus additional levels of care beyond that, including respite care, memory care, and nursing home care. First step is an apartment with a full kitchen. There's additional services offered, a common dining area, so on and so forth. Then a resident can move into the next sections, which have higher levels of care as needed. Of course, those areas will not have the kitchen and the laundry. So this is basically a aging in place facility for people that need that kind of service. Staff had recommended approval for this. All with the conditions that all the village node district design standards, including architecture, streetscaping, amenities, all that be adhered to, and the final site plan and the landscape plan need to be, are subject to review by the community development director. Let me stress again, this cannot exist independently from the rest of the village node developments.
Well, do we need to vote on it, or?
It's pretty much up to y'all on this. If it depends upon the village, that depends upon the village node zoning being approved before this can be considered. Now, that said, if you want to send a recommendation up regarding this as a separate development, you can, or you cannot. It's up to you as to what you choose to do.
Good with that. I'm good with sending it in.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous.
We might need that.
Understand that that is dependent upon
Got it.
DOC rezoning the property.
Got it.
And that will likewise go before the Board of Commissioners in late January.
Okay, application 24-13 VB, Thomas D. Wilson Jr., Minerva Land LLC, 3220 North McDonald Road, Griffin, Georgia. approximately 562 acres located in land lot 115, 116, 141, 142, 143, 147, 148, 149. The second land district, parcel numbers 201, 01001, 201, 01001A, 201, 0100 1B, 201, 0100 1D, 200, 01001, 200, 01006, 200, 0101B, and 200, 201, 0101F. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a minimum single-family house size of 1,200 square feet if the dwellings are age targeted for individuals age 55 and older.
Like the previous application, this is also tied to your zoning. And in fact, this is more tied to the zoning than the use for some type of intermediate care or senior care facility. Please keep that in mind.
This does roughly mirror the model of Sun City with active, senior residents that are of smaller size with, we'll get to the variance about smaller lot sizes in a minute, but basically less maintenance and all of those things that active seniors typically desire. Yeah, Mr. Davis in here as well for that.
Okay, you got anything to add?
Yeah, this is, this would only apply in an area that's designated for the age targeted 55 and older. And the whole point is, somebody or a couple people were talking about what is the hardship. We don't have a hardship. The hardship is the people in the county that need affordable housing, that needs to be within their range, but also at a high level, high quality finishes. It's exactly what Sun City has. Sun City has three basically ranges, low, medium, and high. We've proposed a cap of no more than 35% of the lots would be this size, so that we would have that three-tier segmentation. And the whole point is basically to build houses exactly like Sun City, where they're 1,250 to 1,500 is the low end, which is basically catering heavily to either people who don't want excess square footage, or a lot of single women are in those houses. So without this variance, we would do 50-foot lots, and the house, I guess, would be right at 1,500 square feet. So it's not a massive fundamental change, but it does allow us to get down a little bit and provide a more affordable housing product for the people that would be in there.
Question. Brian, in this particular case, will these just be simple houses that they'll own and maintain, or will you also maintain these like you do over at Sun City Peachtree?
Correct. They would be maintained with a common exterior maintenance program. We don't do that at Sun City. I think the HOA does it themselves, but yeah, they would be, and I think maintained only in the active adult section, but not in the traditional family section. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was actually one of the changes that evolved from this plan, was to shift. We started with the active adult on the south end of the property. At an earlier meeting, it was requested that we move it to the north end so we don't impact the people on Amelia. And then we not only did that, but we removed that road connection through as well. So for those people, it's affecting just the lots on their side. And yeah, they're right. If you don't prove that variance, then we just have 50-foot lots, and we'll probably lose 10 lots or something like that. But more importantly, we just won't be able to do an affordable product for people in Spalding that need it.
Question, Brian, it says there's to allow a minimum house size of 1,200 square feet. Is that for the lower end? How does that fit in?
Yeah, there's basically there's three price points. Most national builders that do active adult stuff have a very similar program like Pulte Davis. Low, medium, high in size, basically, which also becomes price. So yeah, that would be the small ones, and then the 50-foot lots would be the medium size, and the 60-foot would be the bigger ones. So on a square footage, basically, the small ones would be generally, let's say as low as 1,200 to 1,500. The medium ones are usually about 1,600, 1,700 up to 19 or 2,000. And then the big ones are in the, 24, 2,600 square foot range.
Okay.
It gives people a diversity of choice. Everybody has different things they desire. Thank you.
David, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, there was something.
We'll have to throw away a lot of the stuff we have.
Nobody signed up?
They didn't sign up for 2413 BD. They signed up for 2413 VD.
I had nothing or further on that particular
Okay.
variance.
All right.
Before y'all go further, John, I want to advise you as to why the suggestion to allow different votes on this is being made. You are not bound by Minerva's application. This involves multiple tracts, multiple types of development, and a request for rezoning under a certain umbrella called village node. BOC can make decisions as it chooses so long as it zones property in a constitutional manner. So it could make a decision that while the village node was not applicable in a certain place, it could, for example, approve AAR to go for the senior housing area. Right? It is not a monolithic, a large application does not require monolithic votes as an entirety.
I'm good with that.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
And of course, you are still just recommending. That's all this is.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is application 24-13 VD, Thomas D. Wilson Jr., Minerva Land LLC, 3220 North McDonough Road, Griffin, Georgia. Approximately 562 acres located in land lots 115, 116, 141, 142, 143, 147, 148, and 149 of the second land district. Parcel numbers 201-01001, 201-0101A, 201-101B, 201-0101D, 200-01-001, 200-01-006, 200-0101B, and 201-0101F. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a minimum single-family lot frontage and a lot width of 40 feet if the dwellings are age targeted for individuals aged 55 and older. Brian, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think it's the same as the prior one.
Okay.
Can I say one thing? Yeah.
My name was called, but I denied it earlier, but I thought of something real quick.
No. All right. David, you got anything to add to this?
Just want to confirm as with the house sizes, Mr. Davis, and this reduced lot size only applies to the age targeted areas you're referring to, right? Okay.
Okay, we have a couple of people signed up.
We do, yes, sir. Michelle Drugaz.
Michelle Drugaz, 312 Whispering Pines Way. I live in Sun City, Peachtree. And what Mr. Davison said earlier, yes, Henry County is built up, and he says that the new housing is going to be coming into Spalding County. Well, there's already 4,200 homes in the pipeline to be built. And at the October 24th, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting, there was quite a discussion going on after I presented Grayson Park and the look of what those cluster homes were going to be like. And Commissioner Bolden brought up the fact that even though it fits in with what the comp plan says, he says we don't really understand what's going to be happening with those 4,200 homes coming in. we probably need to take a pause or make a moratorium, he said. And that was because we don't know how this is going to affect the roads, the school, and as many people have others said about emergency services, the fire services, all of that is going to be affected by adding 1,500 homes or more to this 4,200 homes that are already being approved and in the pipeline to be built. They've just cleared the road for the 293 homes on Teeman Point. Those got approved by Minerva and the board for cluster dwellings, 293 homes on 34 acres. So I'm just wanted to remind the board that that had been presented, and the Board of Commissioners was considering the pause and the moratorium. And not only did Commissioner Bolden bring it up, but Chairman Davis, he thought it was a good idea. So I wanted to bring that up. And also, the lady spoke earlier about the gun range that's out there. Sun City Peachtree is located right by Cherokee Rose. And, you know, we didn't know when we moved in, you know, that that was going to be developed into a very large event center, and that we were going to be subjected to what we consider warlike noise. When they have any event going on at Cherokee Rose, we have there's no barrier to keep the sound from coming to us. And in this case, this would happen in this same kind of subdivision or this community. And people need to know about it. They need to know what's in their area. We have to have a plan in place. The infrastructure needs to be built before we allow any more developments. We already have to address the 4,200 homes that are coming in. They keep talking about the traffic on Highway 155 already, and the four-way stop at Jackson Road and Highway 155, how terrible that already is. And now when you add the Teeman Road and you add the 308 homes that are going to be approved later for Heron Bay that have already they're already in the process, they're approving the plat for it. And Grayson Park is going to be built out at 219. That is a huge impact on Highway 155 alone. So I hope that the commission will take this under consideration, especially since the Board of Commissioners has said that maybe there needs to be a pause or a moratorium on the northeast building until we see the impact on the schools and the infrastructure of the county. Thank you for your time.
Catherine Strange. Catherine Strange. Mr. Chair, that's all who have signed up this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion from up front here? I'll entertain a motion.
40 feet.
But this does mirror the Sun City model as well of tiered, lot sizes, lot widths. There's a 45, a 52, and a 62. Very similar to Sun City.
Could we go more than 40?
There's two other categories, a 52 and a 62 as well.
Okay. But we're allowing on this.
Yeah, for the old.
For certain areas of the age demographic they're talking about, if you approve it or recommend it for approval, you're allowing the 40-foot width in those areas.
It would be in the age-restricted area only.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't live on a lot that was 40 feet wide unless I were unconscious. What do y'all want? Let the people speak.
That one in.
I mean, 40 feet is cluster stuff. I mean, we've turned down stuff on that, on this board, lots of times. I don't want to lead the charge on everything, though.
What kind of recommendation you have?
50? almost 10 feet difference.
Good. Any concerns? We've limited it to,
David?
yeah.
I mean, there's already ones that are 50 and 52 and 62. It's up to the board.
Let's just make them all. I mean, 40 feet is the minimum. It's just, I think, too small. We are trying to do something to protect this area. And as long as we're gonna do it, we might as well be willing to speak up.
Is that a motion?
Is that a question?
Huh?
No, it's not a question, it's a statement.
Oh, is that a motion?
Yeah, it's the motion that, we change this so that that minimum lot size is 50 feet.
So officially, the request is for 40, so
I know
you're denying that in favor of 50.
Yes, sir.
And that's lot width, correct, Frank?
Width, right. Not length, width.
Okay, have a motion to restrict it. Okay, have a second. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed?
All of these go to the Board of Commissioners on the same date that David identified earlier.
Thank you.
Yes.
Which, you just said you'll give that to the commissioners.
Wait, do we want to pause a minute and let them? Okay.
You can stay or go, it's up to you. It's gonna be a long meeting, but that was the only 155 items, if you're here just for that. It's up to you. Keep going.
We'll just wait and see.
Do you think I can?
I just see those little
No,
I just voted against it because they pissed me off tonight. If I could make it 30 feet, I'd make it 30 damn feet.
the guy with the beard, that standing, who is he? Can you get me some contact?
Okay, we're gonna continue on. Item 5 under new business. We have a proposed text amendment to the Spalding County Code of Ordinances, Appendix 4, zoning Article 2, Section 202, adding the definition of campground resort.
So,
So
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and speak on all three of these. However, there are back there with the sign and forms, 3 separate public hearings for each separate item.
Okay, very good.
So these are proposed as minimum standards, and they would apply in general all over the county if somebody came in for an application for yes. So I have to shut that door. So I will right now tackle talking about item 1, 2, and 3 on new business, just for the sake of time. There is a separate sign-in sheet for all those, have a separate public hearing on the definition, the standards, and where it would possibly be in the zoning code. So this is minimum general standards if somebody were to come with a resort campground application in the future to this board and to the Board of Commissioners. Again, these are designed to be minimum standard, I'm sorry? Okay. These are designed to be minimum, is that better? Minimum standards generally applying to all parts of the county. The first item, as you said, was the definition, which we have there, campground resort. Basically defined as a resort campground as a recreational facility designed and operated to provide temporary accommodation for recreational vehicles, tents, and or other temporary or permanent for rent shelter structures, including but not limited to tree houses, glass domes, teepees, and yurts for the purpose of outdoor recreational activities. Resort campgrounds are intended to offer high-quality amenities and services to enhance the camping experience while preserving a natural environment and ensuring the safety and well-being of visitors. I had some issues with this that especially about, and we'll get into the standards in a minute, but with the definition, whether or not we should include permanent structures in that definition. So that's some concerns I had about just the definition of, you just want to discuss the definition right now, or you want to discuss all at once, I don't know, but we have 3 separate public hearings, so maybe it's better we just do the definition right now.
I think we should do that.
All right.
Do we have anybody signed up on this one?
Yes, sir, we do. We have many of the same people who have signed up for all 3. So if you want to have a conversation about all 3, and then we can have public comment regarding all 3, that
That's fine.
actually might serve a much better purpose.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
So we have the definition on item 1 there of new business. Then we have on item 2, we have the,
I don't want to interrupt, but I would like to say that I feel like we need equal time on each one of those. Like they were, when I talked to Mr. Allen today, he said that we could have time on each one of the 3. So I feel like I could skip the second one, as far as the mobile truck, but I think we need to speak about the definition of what a campground resort is, have a little adequate time there, and then also about the proposal on what they are. And we did sign up for all 3 of them, so we got opportunity.
I don't have a problem with that, the chairman doesn't.
Like, I'd be quick, I'm like, I only take the 5 minutes. But I have some of the same concerns Mr. Alley does about the definition.
Mr. Chairman, this is discretionary to you. If you wanted to consolidate these for purposes of having the public hearing, you could, but you would still have 3 separate zoning decisions on which to vote.
So,
It's
let
up
me
to
ask
y'all.
you something fairly simple. When you come up here to speak, can you not speak to all 3 items at one time?
I think it would be more difficult.
Within the
Think
5
we-
minutes, is that?
I'm just saying, I can speak about the definition in a minute or 2 minutes probably. And I don't know what everybody else, but again, before we got here, we were told. And if we're running out of time, let's just reschedule and come back next time, just time later. I don't have a problem with that. It's up to you guys.
Up to you.
Let's table it.
It's been a difficult
What?
night on you guys, and everybody here, but we had short notice even on when we were here. I believe we have 3 times as many people.
This is the time for us to,
We had 100 people before.
you know,
I believe that we just found out about last night. So if you want to schedule, I believe we can have a whole bunch here at the next hearing.
Well, I mean,
It's discretionary to the board.
do you want to, I mean, there's no hurry with actions on this, but do you want to have a initial discussion about this before it's tabled?
we
I'd
table it?
like to see the same support given to residential, private residents, and the people that support this county. It's the same as I spoke on earlier that I've witnessed since 2019, dealing with developers and large corporations. I think as members of the county, I don't think what he's asking is unreasonable. I think this is extremely important. And I think we already given the show of the county to work here tonight, and we're okay with coming back. This deserves the time that it deserves.
This is in the commission's discretion as to how
Okay,
you
here's
choose
what we're
to
gonna
hold
do.
it.
We're gonna let him finish discussing the 3 items, and then when he finishes, we're gonna discuss tabling it. But we wanna hear this out tonight.
Fair enough. So I think I've gone over the definition enough, concerns about whether or not permanent camping structures such as actual buildings should be used in that or not. Now we get to item number 2, and that's the actual standards for a resort campground, which could be, if approved, found in section 424 of the zoning code. They're too numerous to mention all of them tonight, but some of the basics of them, without getting into all the details, would be located on a parcel of no less than 50 acres, be a maximum number of campsites set equal to the total acreage of the campground times 3. There again, these are all fluid standards. There is nothing in stone here. These all need to be discussed in detail, especially the density. There's provisions for buffers in there. Internal road standards, there's also provisions for that. There's consideration you gotta have for utilities. You're gonna have to have a lot of potable water out there, as well as septic systems. So that's a consideration as well. It's gotta be, as well as electrical hookups. You guys also have adequate waste collection facilities for this. And probably, there's things about amenities in here. Some of these are practical, some I do not believe are practical. As I said in my last couple of notes there on the last page, swimming pools, things of that nature are very high liability. Some of the more lower impact stuff, such as walking trails and stuff, perhaps not, but some of these other ones in here, I believe are too intense, too much liability involved. Probably the biggest qualms I have about the standards for this is the, how long the guests stay, and not that it's excessive. On here is 16 days. I believe state standards are like 14 days for like KOA campgrounds, things of that nature. But this is gonna require a lot of this effort by code enforcement, my department, to make sure that, I'm not saying the operator of this will let this happen, but there's always a possibility somebody's gonna sit on there 30 days, 45 days, what have you. So there's a lot of monitoring that would have to be done, and that's a real big practical consideration with this. So that's kind of the extreme high points of the standards. Do you have something? Do you have a question?
No, I just said stuff does happen.
Right.
You know, when we were discussing the event center that was out on the north part of the county there,
Yes.
one of the sticking points there was the liability insurance and that type of thing. I didn't see any of that mentioned in this.
Right, that would have to definitely be a consideration for, if nothing else, for the owner's protection. That's gonna be a pretty hefty, amount, I would imagine, especially with more activities you have there. So those are the very high points of the standards. We can look at this in more detail between now and, January, and the public has access to this on the website as well. The third thing, having to do with the resort campgrounds is their placement. And is proposed to be permitted as a special exception, which is a public hearing like we had tonight with the retirement facility. Would have to come to this board and Board of Commissioners. These things would never be outright permitted. And had to have a special exception hearing. The zoning category chosen for that was AR1 because of the, large size of the tract required, 50 acres. Generally, that's the one that has the most acreage in it with older farms and things in the county. A lot of the other zonings will not accommodate that. There is another possibility, and this, if you're looking at it as a way of bringing people to the county and having more revenue as pretty much they're tourists, you could certainly look at this as the agricultural tourism zoning. That's a possibility as well. But generally, a lot of the more commercial aspects of it, the lots are way too small that we have in the county now, so that's why AR1 was chosen. And again, it's not an outright permitted use. It had to have the whole hearing and everything. Other things, spoke with the gentleman back there. We had some conversations about it. You know, there's also you have to have a contingency plan for, let's say, the original owners, and they have good intent. They die, go bankrupt, something, what happens to that after that? Is it transferred to the next owner or not? And let's say they're not as good as the originals, then you have a huge problem with maintenance and things of that nature. So there's a lot to digest with this, so we can certainly discuss it some tonight and more during the January meeting.
In the meantime, I wondered if you could, maybe check some other counties that have
Mhm.
similar type things and see what problems they've encountered.
Okay?
I have a question. This campground resorts, they're a commercial enterprise, is that not correct? They hope to make money from it?
Yes.
So why would they not fall into commercial zoning?
I mean, you could, but you have the situation where, let's say you do that, and it's 50 acres, and you rezone 50 acres commercial to C2 or C1, whatever. Let's say that, again, campground disappears after 5 years. You still have that C1 zoning on there, and now what's gonna be out there? You know, if you have this in rural areas, the C1 zoning or any other commercial zoning is gonna be a spot zoning out there. It's gonna stick out, be surrounded by farmland and houses and things and be a spot zoning. So, I mean, you could, if you put it closer to highways and other major roads, for sure, that would help. But if you wanna have this out in the country and experience true camping life, I guess, you'd have a problem of, commercial island kind of surrounded by non-commercial zoning, so.
Woodstock all over again.
Wow.
It would be hard to camp on 1941.
You wouldn't sleep much.
Me too, please. And farming is a commercial enterprise. Let's not forget that.
True.
Yes. True farming.
Okay, so, do I have a motion to table items 1, 2, and 3?
Can I make a comment first? Yeah, well, I'm glad that this is kind of going this way, and I apologize with time and stuff, because I did have some issues with this that I was going to bring up, and I would like to have gotten them to David ahead of time. But, you know, I did try to look up some other ordinances, because I know one of our neighboring counties has at least one of these that I'm aware of that they have had issues with, people just pretty much living there, even though
Right.
their ordinance does say that they're only gonna be there for 30 days or whatever also. So I think, going back to Mr. Harris has says many times up here, that, you know, we've gotta really look at this and do it right the first time. We don't wanna jump into something it could be done all over the county and then regret we did it. So I think it definitely deserves more time and effort put in here. There were other things along the lines of just the density of it. You know, things like, you know, we talk about the 50-acre minimum, but again, you know, we want to also think about, we only want maybe so many regardless of what the size is. There's some limitations there, and we talk about maintain up to 60%. But, you know, maybe we really want to maintain a minimum of 60% to kind of keep the green space and keep it up. And then there were some other things in there as well about the utilities and some of the restroom requirements and other things that they're not as, in some of the other ordinance I saw were much tighter specs. And I think you know, we owe it to the community and to ourselves to try to make sure it's done. Also try to come up with some means to be able to control the possible abuse on the other end if you do have people staying in there. Because again, we have struggle around here with having code enforcement, people to go out and take care of the basic things. And, you know, that would could take up a lot of time. And, you know, it'd be nice if we could work out the details up front and avoid some of that. So I will go on through like I was doing and make the comments and pass that along to you and be ready to discuss this in more detail next month. And with that, sir, unless somebody else has something, I will make a motion to table all three of these
If
one,
you
two,
would,
and three.
vote on each one
Okay.
separately, please.
Make a motion to
Definitions first.
table the proposed text amendment, Spalding County Code ordinance, definition of campground resort.
I'll second that. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
All right. I'll make a motion to table item 2, proposed text amendment, Spalding County Code Ordinance, Appendix 4, zoning, Article 2, Section 424, adding campground resort to supplemental use standards.
I'll second that as well. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Left hand.
All right. And then make a motion to table item 3, proposed text amendment of Spalding County Code Ordinance Appendix 4, zoning Article 5, Section 503B, adding campground resort to AR1 permitted use requiring a special exception.
Okay, I'll second that as well. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would be another ad out for planning commission, I believe, is on the January 21st. It's usually the 4th Tuesday of the month, but there will be other, ads in the paper about the continued discussion of these items.
Can I ask a question, please? When they had this, there were supposed to be zoning signs, and those were taken down.
Correct, because that application was withdrawn. There are zoning signs on a specific property that is being asked for a use, so they were taken down as soon as they withdrew their application. These text amendments concern possibly anywhere in the county, that's why you can't put out signs, so.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I just wondered.
Right.
And so that everyone will know, including the commission, this issue began before David arrived. It involves a request of a property owner who wanted to do this on their property. They had the request for the use. The ordinance does not include a provision that defines it or allows it, and we followed the same pattern we always do. If somebody has a request for use of a property and they want to tender a request for an ordinance of text amendment to allow or define a use, we allow them to proceed. And it's up to you and to the Board of Commissioners to decide whether A, you want to define that use, and B, whether that use is appropriate at a particular location, which is the subject of an application.
Yes.
All right, so that begs the question on the next application, or do we
No.
need to wait till we have?
No, sir, the next one is a religious campground on North McDonough Road. Pastor Boyce, is he here? Okay. This is in the code already. You have to have a special exception for it in AR1 zoning, so this is not to be confused with resort campground, which technically does not exist right now. But a religious campground is in the code. So we have Pastor Boyce from Woodland Church over on North McDonough Road who has had this request on the books for some time. Basically, there's a church out there now. This would be behind the church. It consists of some cabins, some walking trails, a rope swing type event, a splash pad, I believe, in the front of the church. So it'd basically be used mainly during times you had retreat scheduled, but I'll let him talk about that in more detail.
Okay, is he here?
Yes, he's.
All right, come up here and tell us about it.
Thank you, sir.
Hang on just a second.
Thank you.
Can you guys just move on a little quicker?
I have to put the gavel past the sign.
If you're moving, move on.
Disputed. All the more reason.
You got that info.
right, let's try it.
All
again.
right, go ahead. My name's Stuart Boyce. I'm the pastor of Woodland Church. I live on 1195 North Ola Road in McDonough. It'd take too long to kind of go through all of the details. As Mr. Allen said, our application has been on the books for quite some time. I believe, hopefully, the site plan and everything has been available to everyone. But to just briefly state our vision, it's to, number one, make our property a benefit to the community, which speaks to the splash pad, the park, things of that nature, which people will be able to use at no charge. And then we also wanted to create a Christian retreat. There was no ordinance that mentioned a retreat, so religious campground was the one that it falls under, which is people coming to get help, connect with God, get ministered to. We're talking about having kids camps, youth camps, and then if people want to come out and then use some of these facilities, he proposed the question that the stays would be anywhere from 2 to 5 days. And I talked to one couple who were concerned that it was an RV campground, and that's not what we're doing. So I'm also here to answer questions and not take up any more of our precious time.
I do have a question for you.
Sure.
Item 7 there, the use of a ropes course shall be supervised by church staff.
Yes, sir.
Are they gonna be certified?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make sure that the ropes course is
I'm
secure.
talking about the staff people. Are they
Oh, the
gonna-
staff
are they
people?
gonna be certified?
Yeah.
Ropes course people?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the maximum number of cabins you're planning on having? Is it the same as on the plan, about roughly 8?
I think the plan that we had may have been confused with a different one, our final plan. Our final plan has more than that, in the neighborhood of 20 permanent cabins. Your conditions here limit us to 10. So, I mean,
And it-
as
does it have-
as the ministry expands, of course, we would need more permanent cabins. So there's really not, we want to be able to expand that.
And they each have like 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, or more?
Some of them are like sponsors or adults supervisor cabins that will have a bathroom in them. And then some of them will be like for like the kids to stay. They'll have bunks, and then they would use a bathroom outside of that. So there's a mixture of those types of cabins, which of course we know we're gonna have to bring to you for approval when we build them.
Right.
Mr. Boyce, when you say bathrooms outside of that, do you mean an outside bathroom or?
No, a bathroom that's in a different building than the
Okay.
cabin.
Good, thank you for clearing that up.
So then, you're saying that you have, an issue with the recommendation of only having limited it to 10?
Yes.
Okay. What about the part there that it talks about, because you were saying something about the, for people to come out, kind of need to rejuvenate themselves and to do things, but there was another comment here about it being tied to, I think religious events, or let me find it. Oh,
Yes, we would be scheduling retreats,
okay,
and like kids camps, youth camps. And during those times, they would be using the facilities, the splash pad, and then those would be closed to the public, whereas they would be open to the public, supervised, of course.
well, here's the comment I was referring to. It said, permanent cabins shall be only used or occupied for participants of specific religious retreat events during those events.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And would you, in addition to the permanent cabins you're planning, are you planning on having any other camping type or mobile home type setups out there?
Mobile home types, no,
Okay.
no, sir.
Okay.
David, did you have anything else to add?
There's someone on here.
No, sir, I had the various approval conditions on there. It was recommended for approval, with the 11 listed conditions that I had there in the staff report. I guess y'all can discuss the number of cabins. Yeah,
Our main issue
I
with
do
the number
understand
of
growth.
cabins is
Right.
for growth.
Right.
That's the main thing.
Just didn't want it to run into a large density issue like we just discussed with the other type, but yeah, I do know,
I
understand.
see that getting away pretty quick.
If it's a success, there would be growth, but
Well, to your point, we're not talking about 50 or 60 cabins.
right.
We're probably talking double that, 20.
You have public water?
Yes. We've spoken with the water department, and they said they have no issue providing water for the site plan that we proposed.
There was that city of Griffin.
County,
Water.
probably,
Spalding County.
Spalding County.
Spalding, yeah.
County water authority.
You just have to put in a septic system?
Yes, sir.
But with it being all the bathrooms in the one outside building, I guess you'd only need the one large system, not one per cabin.
Correct.
What was the health department?
I was just trying to think, if you clustered the cabins, how many acres you think it would consume just to have it? I didn't, not quite sure how you were gonna lay everything out. How many acres you think that would consume out of the 132?
Did you,
I did not, I could not get that page to print. Let me look here on this.
can I approach?
Sure. It's in there.
I think this is perhaps different from the one that David has. We were confused as
Here are
to,
the pictures.
the person before you asked us for more detail. I think we sent them the one that has the 8 cabins, and they said, you need to give us more detail. So we came up with that one.
Okay.
One has more cabins on it. My apologies, Mr. Allen.
David, I tried to look up, far as what kind of the requirements were and involved with the, religious campground, but, I mean, are there some, yeah, it was pretty minimal, so how would you like regulate, if so many beds, it's going to be so many showers per so many beds and things like that?
I mean, that'd
Would that
be,
be-
that'd be up to him as far as the experience they want to have out there. And it'd be up to the health department as far as the sizes of the septic systems and all that. So.
Right, okay.
We're committed to working with the county on whatever's necessary to make sure that we don't burden anything too much, or we comply with whatever they want.
Not really a regulation that says you gotta have X number of bathrooms, but,
Yeah.
Bruce, the ordinance, when it was drafted, was intended for facilities like Mount Zion Campground and Perkle. And one of them, I can't remember which one it was, wanted to expand. They were a non-conforming use in AR1, and we had no use for them. In other words, no defined use that could describe them. So what you have in that code was intended to allow Perkle, Mount Zion, I think there was one other at the time, to be in compliance with the code.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion?
Just a question, application says that the property is owned by a church in, Forest Park. Is that correct?
Yes, well, the church in Forest Park moved to Griffin, and we kept that as our legal name. And so we're in the process, or actually, we've changed it to Woodland Church, Inc., but Harvest Worship Center in Forest Park moved to Griffin.
All right, thank you.
It's the same entity or the same corporation.
Okay, we have a couple of people signed up to speak.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we just have one additional person who has signed up, and that's Loretta Thomas.
Maybe.
All right, Mr. Chair, that's all that have signed up for this application.
All right. Entertain a motion. There's quite a lengthy list of conditions on there. I think if someone moves to approve it, need to have those with the staff conditions on them.
Also need to resolve whether it's 10 or 20 as far as
Yeah.
number of cabins.
And I think I would like to also have in there that there won't be any other type of, mobile home, motor home type setups and stuff in there either.
Okay. No mobiles.
Or motor, or pop-ups, or pull-behinds, or whatever. We want it to be a camp, that kind of campground. What about
So
the,
that would be a condition that restricts the placement of recreational vehicles?
Motorized type, yes.
Mr. Commissioner, are you making a recommendation that this be stick-built cottages only?
well, I don't know that what he's got there is actually stick-built. It looks like more they're dropped. I'm not worried about that type of unit. I'm just saying I don't want,
And they have a permanent foundation.
yeah, want to have, but I don't want to be motor homes or somebody pulling in pop-up campers and stuff like that in there, you know, at the campground.
But you would be okay with trailers?
Well, it looks like that's what he's recommending, the way they're anchored down and everything.
All right.
So,
Just want to make sure I completely understand for code enforcement and inspection purposes.
Will these have like a typical concrete foundation? Okay, we're talking slabs, so.
all right.
Okay. How do the other, religious campgrounds, Perkle, how do they deal with that? As far as the, travel trailers being brought in?
I don't believe they are. I know Perkle probably didn't have room for that. They have a bunch of, like bungalows or dorms that they
Right.
house people in.
But the other one was,
Mount Zion.
You know, Mount Zion's got what they call the old tents, which are those wooden cabins that have been on that site for probably 150 years. I haven't been out there recently.
I don't ever recall seeing an RV or something like that
I
out there.
don't recall seeing one either. That said, I couldn't tell you that there's a restriction that would prevent it absent a condition being imposed, but I don't remember seeing it.
Well, and I think actually several years ago when we had one of the storms come through, I think Perkle did allow some to come up there because they were doing cleanup and stuff. And I mean, again, under extenuating circumstances like that, with somebody coming in to help clean up the area and try to accommodate the community, I don't think that's a problem. But I just didn't want to see, you know, hookups out there, tied in with your sewer hookup and your power to let them come out there in their travel trailers
I think
and
in the
stuff.
case of youth camps, the parents would drop them off, register them, and they'd be living in the permanent cabins.
Right. That's good.
You guys got me confused. We are not talking about the cabins being mobile homes, is that correct?
They have permanent concrete foundations.
They are like modular units, though, aren't they?
Say that again?
I said the ones that look like they're anchored down and they're on a foundation, but they're more like a modular unit. They're not just stick-built homes.
We plan to build them.
Okay. Well, that's
They're
just, it's
permanent
not what it
cabins.
looked like with that design that was there. Okay.
They're not tiny homes.
No, they're bigger than that. There's a lot of beds.
All right, so I guess then the other thing we gotta resolve is the number of cabins.
My intent was just to have a cap of some kind.
These photos that you have in here, is that tarps on the top?
I don't think so. I think that's just part of the roof material, but it's not, it looks like a metal roof.
That's
Oh.
a metal roof.
Okay. Wood metal,
Just looks like the sun shining on it. It's corrugated.
I see now, okay.
All right. So what do y'all think about the number?
I think 10 and come back if things get better. I'm not in that business, so I don't know.
Asking for additional permission later down the line if there's not enough room for what you have.
I wondered if we could cap it and then, are you trying to start off with 20 from the?
No, sir. What we'd like is the option to increase the number of cabins should we grow. That's, when you said you have an issue with the number of cabins.
Understandable.
If we don't ever get to where we need more, then we don't, but I didn't wanna just say 10 only. But if we need to come back, I'm totally fine with that. If we need to come back and get permission.
So you could live if we did 10 with the option to come back and ask.
I can
for it.
live with the 10 with the option to come back, yes. That's very
That'll give
generous,
us a
thank you.
chance to see how it looks on the ground and everything too.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Well, I could revise condition number 2 to reflect that. And then you have added condition number 12, no RVs, pop-ups, or mobile campers.
Okay. All right, that sounds good.
All right, with those, additional items added, under stipulations, I will make a motion to approve based on staff's condition and those additions.
I'll second that.
Okay. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
This will as well go to the Board of Commissioners in late January as well.
All right, we're over to item 5, application 2327S, ACA Ventures, Ash Lanai, 3458 Teeman Road, Griffin, Georgia, approximately 2.49 acres, located in land lot 113 of the Second Land District, parcel number 201-01012A. The applicant is requesting a special exception for a convenience store gas station per section 1303B2. We have someone here to speak to that. Come on.
Is the applicant here for the gas station at Teeman Road?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were leaving.
Good afternoon. My name's Christopher Mallory. I'm the engineer representing the client this afternoon. And this particular property is on the corner of Teeman Road and 155. It's a 2.8 acre piece of property.
Mr. Mallory, could you give us your address, please, sir?
Thank you.
Your address?
My address is 11752 Highway 19, Zebulon, Georgia, Suite B. I apologize for not giving you the address. This property is a 2.8 acre piece of property that is currently zoned C1. We're here to request a special exemption to place a convenience store on this piece of property, which will contain 5 gas pumps. And the building itself will be, 5,280 square feet with an additional 2,400 future proposed on the plan at this time. We're currently showing a 20-foot buffer along all the frontage of the property, as well as a 30-foot undisturbed buffer on the backside. This particular property will be on a septic system and public water, and we're also proposing a detention pond down on the southern end of the portion of the property. Is there any questions at this time for me?
I'm good. Anybody got a question up here? Will that be a detention pond or underground detention?
At this current time, it'll be a detention pond. Obviously, once we get into design, that may ultimately change.
Okay.
But at this time, we're proposing a pond.
And you are with whom?
I am with Whitley Engineering. I am the engineer for this project, representing the client.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David?
So just a little history, this was rezoned back in 2011. It was a C1A conditional zoning, which had 8 conditions on there, which site-wise, the site plan provided does comply with. There are some provisions in there for architectural requirements. Exterior building materials should be brick or stone. And then some things about the site lighting fixtures. I do not have that information at this time, but at the time, if this is approved by the commissioners, we should have it then. And the building permit, everything in the future, if this is approved, we'll have to adhere to those requirements, as well as the additional conditions I had, mainly concerning architecture in my staff report. Of course, it needs GDOT approval. I basically put in there that prior to a building permit being issued, exterior architectural plans, including canopy, should be provided to and approved by my office. Also, prior to the building permit being issued, a landscape plan should be provided to and approved by my office. Site lighting fixtures should be night sky friendly with the decorative gooseneck lighting you see on some of these. Of course, the exterior signage will have to conform to the sign ordinance and the village node district. I believe there's some separate standards in there. And of course, this is not, if this is approved, this is not obviously alcohol approval as well. That's a separate approval. So those are my only comments on this.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Hey, I'll entertain a motion.
Have a number of people who've signed
Oh,
up,
I've
Mr.
got
Chair.
you. Sorry.
Amanda Gilbert. No worries.
I'm Amanda Gilbert. I live at 1121 Amelia Road. I'm going to be really short. I go down 155 several times a week, so I'm familiar with the area. And I used to live on Tiemann Road for about 5 years, so I'm very familiar with that area. And I feel like there is already a number of gas stations up the hill and at the four-way stop, so it's kind of overkill on the gas stations. And it's a very dangerous turn right there with the yield, and that would just, before the roads are addressed in that spot, I feel like that's going to cause more accidents. And you'll hear more on this part from someone else, but I feel like we were here before with a family that just zoned agriculturally because they want to have a market stand and they want to be able to grow crops and sustain their family. And I feel like being right next to a gas station with that runoff would be detrimental to the public, to them. having all of that running off onto their property, and where they're trying to support themselves. And I know a lot of people would not want to be buying crops that might have been right next to a gas station running off into their area, and I feel like that's a detriment to the public and to their way of life and their income. So, thank you.
Samantha Langston.
My name is Samantha Langston, 2423 North McDonough Road. I strongly oppose the request to build a gas station on the property next to mine. I live directly next to the proposed site. This development poses severe risk to my family's safety, our agricultural pursuits, and the environment. Some of my concerns are the safety risk. Our home is located in the north corner of our property, closest to the gas station proposal. Gas stations often attract undesirable activities, including loitering, drug use, and increased vehicular traffic. With its proximity to a highway, this station could bring a high volume of cars with unknown occupants, creating a safety hazard for my children, who currently enjoy playing outdoors. This development would turn our backyard into a danger zone. Agricultural and environmental impact. We recently purchased this property to establish a farming business. A gas station next door jeopardizes our plans by threatening our soil, our water, and our overall environmental health. Underground storage tanks at gas stations are notorious for leaking hazardous chemicals such as benzene and toluene, leading to contaminated soil. Such contamination would render our crops unsafe for consumption or for sale, significantly impacting our livelihood and violating our legal soil rights. According to the U.S. Environment Protection Agency, fuel leaks from underground storage tanks are one of the primary sources of soil and groundwater contamination. If a gas station is located near agricultural land, these contaminants could seep into the soil, damaging crop yields and affecting the food safety of the produce grown on adjacent fields. Additionally, our 2-acre pond, located near the proposed site, collects runoff from the surrounding area, including this property. Rain would carry spilled fuel and oil directly into the pond, contaminating it and endangering the fish we rely on for food and for income. The pond also serves as a water source for our animals and is used by protected wildlife species such as hawks. This contamination could devastate the ecosystem and undermine our family's sustainability. Water rights. The gas station's location could severely threaten our water rights. Fuel spills draining into our pond could make the water unsafe for our livestock and the community members who fish there. The environmental degradation would make it impossible to maintain the pond as a food resource for our family and for others. This pond is open to the community to pay to fish. We cannot offer this service when the water is constantly being contaminated. Traffic hazards. The area is already overwhelmed by traffic with poorly developed infrastructure. Our driveway is often mistaken for Teeman Road, leading to frequent intrusions onto our property. Adding a gas station would worsen this situation, creating even more confusion and congestion. The additional traffic poses significant risks to our family as we enter and exit our property. Air pollution. Gas stations emit volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxides, which contribute to air pollution. These pollutants are harmful to both human health and our agricultural productivity. High levels of ground-level ozone can damage crops and reduce yields, further threatening our farming operations. Moreover, the air pollution could make parts of our home, including our basement, uninhabitable. Public health concerns. Proximity to a gas station increases.
You pretty much used up your time.
Okay, can I finish my paragraph? It's the last part. Proximity to a gas station increases exposure to harmful chemicals, leading to potential respiratory problems, cancer, and other health issues. The risks to our families and neighbors are unacceptable. Building this gas station would violate our rights to safe living conditions and sustainable farming. My children deserve a secure backyard, and we deserve the ability to farm without these preventable threats. It is not legally acceptable for another property to cause health and financial damages or to restrict a property owner's legal water, air, and soil rights. Thank you.
Scott.
Is the county water up there?
Scott Drugmiller, 2494 North McDonough Road. I want to, I live directly across the street from this property. Without widening the road, it's literally going to be a nightmare. I frequently have wrecks in my front yard, out there, over the past 3 or 4 years. It just seems like an overall bad idea to put one there without severely changing that intersection and doing a lot of work on it. I also had the same concerns that the previous woman had when she was up here about the contaminants from the gasoline and the gas station getting into the pond, causing it not to be, fishing, for the fish and the wildlife that all reside there. Thank you very much.
Rachel Stroud.
Rachel Stroud, 550 Amelia Road. Echoing the last gentleman's concerns, the traffic in the area is just insane. Through all the information we've been gathering regarding North Talladega Village Node, the DRI report specifically looks at this intersection as something that is dangerous, and adding a gas station at this intersection would have extra vehicles entering and exiting in unpredictable ways, competing with the already difficult existing traffic patterns, just causing even more confusion. So I think that, first of all, I think that we don't need a gas station in this area. There's already currently a convenience store going in at Frog Road and 155, and then if you go less than a mile away from this intersection, there is a Circle K, a Chevron, and a BP that was just recently completed. So I would just urge that this not be pushed forward until, at the very least, until the issues with traffic flow in this area are addressed. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's all who've signed up for this application.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any other discussion from up front here? We'll entertain a motion.
I do have a question. It is currently zoned C1A.
Yes, it's been that way for nearly 15 years.
Okay. And does a convenience store fit within those parameters
As a special exception, as a special use.
as a special exception?
That's the reason you have the application.
Okay.
It has 3 code requirements for it, which it meets. Structures at least 30 feet from property lines, it meets, the site plan does. Place on a corner lot, obviously this is a corner lot, and curb cuts must be located at least 15 feet from intersections. Had in the staff report, they're somewhere between 200 and 300 feet away from the intersection.
So is that part of the 8 conditions you were talking about that were in the
That is in
original?
addition to those, that's 3 that are in the code for now in our zoning code, but there were those 8 special ones that's in your staff report from 2011 when it was rezoned. Site-wise, it meets all of those, and then we will, have architecturals on it that will be reviewed for compliance with that as well. They'll need to be brick or stone on the outside.
All right, this is one's a little bit difficult, but, again, it's been out there and zoned for years to a means that would handle this, and, I do agree that I would hope that they take special consideration to the fact that there's a number of other, convenience stores and gas stations all along that area. I don't know how many we need, but as far as the zoning and the way it's laid out, I would think that could go ahead and recommend approval based on the recommendations of the staff.
I'll second that.
Okay. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Please forgive me, does that also include the conditions by staff?
Yes, he
Yes,
said.
sir.
All right, sorry, please forgive me, I did not hear that, I was trying to capture notes.
Yeah, he said that. Okay, those in favor signify by
was the
raising
second?
your right hand.
Mr. Harris.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right.
Likewise, this will go in front of the, Board of Commissioners in late January.
Hey, item 6 is the preliminary plat review for Leverett property. I guess you've got that.
Yes, sir. So a couple points on this. This is not changing zoning. This is a minor subdivision, not changing zoning, hence it does not have a public hearing. Also, the applicant and the engineer are both apparently ill. They told me they would not be here tonight to represent this, so I said that was fine. It's fairly self-explanatory. The current zoning, and this is at the intersection of Aerodrome Way and Carver Road, is R1, single-family residential, which has 2-acre minimum lots on it. You see the plat in your packet here. I have a larger one here if you want to see that. But basically, in terms of lot width and size of the lots and all that, it complies with our zoning code. This is one of those that's been in plat purgatory in our office for too long, so. This basically will not go to the Board of Commissioners being a preliminary plat. So it'll just, if approved, it'll just be approved by your board here. I'll track you down in the next couple of days, get you to sign the, signature block. They have a wrong wording on there. I'll get another copy and get you to sign it if you guys choose to approve this. Pretty cut and dry.
Yep. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, it's unanimous.
You.
All right, I guess Mr. Mobley has hung in there till the bitter end, so. Preliminary plat review of Rover Road Farm, 16-lot subdivision, at the intersection of Rex Road, Marybook Road, and Highway 362, AR1 zoning.
Sir, again, this is not changing zoning either, hence not the need for a public hearing. The lots do comply with the zoning code in terms of width and acreage. A couple other points, being on Highway 362, some of the lots had to have GDOT approval. You have that correspondence in your packet. Basically, they are requiring several of the lots to have shared driveways between the lot lines to cut down a number of driveways on that street. So they will have to conform with that. They have no choice for those lots. Also, there is talk with the county past several months about future widening of Rex Road, the right-of-way of that. So that is reflected in the lots fronting Rex Road. There is a portion of them taken out. However, it still complies with the acreage and lot width. Mr. Jones is here to represent the applicant.
Charles Jones, I represent Mobley Construction, 229 East College, Suite A, Griffin, Georgia. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a ag zoning right now. The use would be residential. It it's the opposite of what you've been hearing about all night. The smallest lots will be 3 and some change. The largest lot will be 10 and some change. So these are larger tracts. We've worked with the county since August. We support their recommendations and would ask that you approve the preliminary plat. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Also move.
Okay, have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
All right, and this is, of course, only approved by you as preliminary plat. There's a little problem with the signature block. I'll talk to you all about that tomorrow. I'll track down Mr. Yeomans, get him to sign as chairman, and we'll be good to go with that.
Thank you. May we be excused?
Absolutely. Can I go with you?
Nope.
All right, next item on the agenda is the review of the revised preliminary plat for the Meadows at Heron Bay.
Okay, so this preliminary plat has already been approved by the board some time ago. However, there is a revision of the plat by field conditions that required it. If you look in your packet, there are 2 streets that used to be connected at the end. There is a stream crossing there they had to cross. They thought better of that, and environmentally it makes sense, and cost-wise it makes sense to take out that connection between them. Therefore, they now end in cul-de-sacs, as you see on the revised plan. There is still an aerial sewer crossing across that creek, but that is the only thing there. So basically, there is no change in the lot yield or the lot sizes. The revised lots still conform to the code for that area, and there is no change in the lot yield. So this is just a simple reflection of what they had to do in the field to cut costs and preserve the environment. And so I brought it before you to reflect that change in the preliminary plat.
Okay. All right, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Recommend approval based on staff recommendations.
Okay. Second, those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay. Item 9, review of updated final plat for the collection at Grayson Park, phases 2A, 2B off North McDonough Road, VN zoning.
All right, since we're doing plats tonight, I brought this one before you as well. This will, as a final plat, have to go to the commissioners for final approval. However, there's not really changes to design on here. In phase 2A, the issue was, when I came on board, there was not adequate street trees, landscaping out there at the time. Myself and Mr. Galloway and the contractor met out there and hashed out a compromise plan, which I have parts of it in your packet there. Basically, I went out there and the trees were installed satisfactorily in earlier November. So that was met for phase 2A. The issue, or I shouldn't say issue, it's not really an issue with phase 2B, is they reflect the as-built location now, the final plat does, of certain townhome buildings that have already been built. I have the numbers there in the staff report. And also a couple of the lot lines were adjusted slightly based on having to build a firewall in a part of them. So again, this plat reflects some realities in the field, and nothing has changed lot-wise or anything like that. So it just reflects the only hang-up with phase 2A was the planting of the trees, which is accomplished, and then the minor adjustments on phase 2B.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Allen? We had some reference to, this particular project, when we were discussing the, village node. Can you elaborate on any of that?
I think what they were talking about, based on my limited experience here, was number one, the landscaping, which is solved now. But they were, I believe, talking about some of the architectural elements on the houses and the detached portion of it, which are already built, of course. But really, we're working on more architectural standards in the county in the coming months. You could also, in the future, with any of these, have a developer's agreement where they specify what certain houses must look like, and you have to abide by that. So I think this is a case of learning from mistakes architecturally, but the houses are built, but I think they were referring to the architecture.
Well, I'm so glad we're doing that because we had a bunch of stuff that we've allowed to have built that I'm not proud of.
So what we're doing is changing the plat to reflect reality.
We are changing the plat to reflect the fact that the landscaping is now complete, and then to put on the final plat. The final plat has to show as-built conditions, so we're reflecting the footprints of certain buildings that have been built. That's it. No design elements are changing.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Approve.
Second.
Okay, those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay. Okay, item 10 is a proposed text amendment. Spalding County Code of Ordinances, Appendix 4, zoning, Article 2, Section 202, adding various definitions of solar energy systems.
Yes, sir. Last but not least, we have our solar, the definition, and we have the next item is where they would be located and are permitted. These do require a public hearing, so you can have a unified public hearing, whatever you want to do on both of these since they're interrelated. But this stems from a workshop back in September with the Board of Commissioners. We had the solar ordinance then. They wanted to make some changes based on some input we got. The ordinance, when it was written then, basically seemed to just address solar farms of that type. They didn't really address people wanting to supplement their energy sources with panels on their house or maybe in their yard, a certain amount of panels. So we introduced another definition to account for that. Solar energy system, ground-mounted residential yard scale solar. I know that's a big mouthful, but it's basically a ground-mounted solar energy system as an accessory use for an existing dwelling on a residential property, not to exceed 10 kilowatts or a maximum of 20 panels, is how that was defined. I'll go ahead and speak to the other item as well, since we're on it. Basically, it outlines where this and the other types of solar energy are allowed, what zoning districts they're allowed in is either a main use or an accessory use. In a nutshell, this residential yard scale ground mounted system would be allowed as an accessory use next to a dwelling meeting certain standards, as would the roof mounted or rooftop systems. Obviously, the other solar energy farms, things of that nature, would require a special exception. So that's, in a nutshell, we're adding one more definition to account for the reality of people using solar panels to supplement their energy production at their house.
I thought I caught some communication where somebody was beefing about it being mounted on the front of the house.
Yes, sir. In our public hearing, I believe Mr. Burns will discuss those. And I think he has some valid points, so
Okay.
we'll hear from him.
All right.
Yes, sir. Mr. Burns, please step forward, state your name and your address for the record, please. Mr. Chair, Mr. Burns has signed up for both the definition and the use location, so it's up to the board as to whether or not they adhere to the 3 minutes or afford him a few extra minutes for discussion.
I can consolidate.
All right.
Greg Burns, 5451 West McIntosh. So I'm the person who proverbially asked for permission instead of forgiveness. So I started this process back in June by putting in a permit application to put a small number of panels in my property. I live out in the west part of the county. I have 85 acres on the Flint, have a small farm, and as Mr. Allen just said, want to supplement my energy sources. Primarily, I mean, these, as you know, these systems are currently still quite expensive. Georgia Power and the EMCs do not really make it worthwhile from a financial perspective on a net metering basis to recover any of that cost. So the primary reason these days is energy independence. And as Mr. Galloway has said in the workshop, and as we know, Georgia Power has overcommitted itself in terms of its contracts. With the data centers going up over the coming years, the county, the entire state is going to be in big trouble in terms of power capacity. So it's simply my goal to head that off and, you know, be energy resilient, and in fact it helps the community by taking stress off the grid. I had originally proposed a small ground mount to run some equipment on the property. The delay has actually given me a lot of time to think about whether that's the best use of solar, and actually probably would, you know, if I was to come back, probably come with a roof mount just because it's simpler and more aesthetically pleasing. The issue for me, though, is I live on West McIntosh, which runs east-west. I'm on the north side of the road, which means all of my south-facing roofs, which is the ones you have to put the panels on, face the road. So I think the revisions to the ordinance are fantastic, and I appreciate Mr. Galloway and Mr. Allen's efforts to do that. My only suggestion, and it's both personally motivated but also for everyone in the county, is to remove the street-facing item. So, because as it stands now, that would still require a special exception, and essentially you'd be taking a road and saying, these people can have a permit, these people can't unless you have a special exception, come before you guys, pay more fees, and so on and so forth. So that's my primary request. Smaller item, I would recommend against a kilowatt limitation, primarily because the technology is changing so rapidly. You could take 20 panels maybe in a year or two and you get a lot of kilowatts out of it and actually run a whole house. And I seem to have seen some proposed state legislation which would raise that, and they're actually talking about raising the net metering someday, maybe. I don't know.
They're talking about it.
Yeah. Well, we can be hopeful, but it's, I mean, why put a limitation now is, I guess, my point. So those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, so that is the situation now, is you can't mount them on the road facing side of the.
As proposed, yes. I mean, I think it is a good point. It was mainly for an aesthetic reason, but however, if you want these things to be useful, I mean, you may have a situation as he does where he's on a certain side of the road where, you know, there may be a lot of trees or something blocking it being useful in the back of the roof. So, you know, I do see the point.
See the panels looking better than a lot of roofs in Spalding County.
Well, I ran into that restriction in Coweta County. And they took some offense when I asked the Board of Commissioners how many people had to be taken to the hospital as they were driving by buildings on Highway 34 and saw solar panels and immediately began to convulse. So you can have worse things on your building than solar panels, and they are becoming smaller and they are becoming more efficient. So, the concern about the aesthetics, to me, is not as great, but though most ordinances, and I think David can confirm this from the research he did, most ordinances will probably have a provision limiting them on the other side from street view.
But they also make some of them now that are meant to be aesthetically pleasing, like the solar flowers and stuff
Well-
like that, you know, so I don't see it's gonna hurt
Made
anything.
into shingles.
Well, Elon Musk makes them into shingles.
Right. So,
Probably with government subsidy that he desires to continue, but that's,
He's got to
they are
work on
being
that.
made into shingles.
Yeah, really does.
They're better looking than a Cybertruck.
yeah.
And less likely to catch on fire.
So is that something we can accommodate in the ordinance?
Yes, you would make a motion to approve the ordinance with the deletion of the street facing requirement.
But if you go out on the Zebulon Road, there's a house on the left as you go toward Ingalls, right across from where the Dollar General is, that the total thing is solar panels. And it's not unpleasant at all. If you really want, you know, if you're paying attention to the road, you really wouldn't, be that distracted by it. But, yeah.
Just as a point of order, the first item is the definition, which does not include the street facing requirement. It does include the kilowatt requirement, so you may want to focus on that one first if you do a action on that item.
Well, to be honest, is the kilowatt, as he said, they're getting better, I see no point in limiting ourselves.
I would recommend a cap on the number of panels so it doesn't get out of hand next to a house, but I guess you could just totally delete references to kilowattage.
Okay.
Georgia Power has a limitation on the size of the generation from the system that's tied to the fact that they don't want to have to pay for excess generation. So therefore, it's limited in a way to limit the generation of the panels to 125% of the house's peak load. Now, that is a general application or general restriction. But that's where the 4 kW and 4 to 10 kW restrictions you see come from.
What he said.
Couldn't we, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is piggyback on, because I mean, again, I think, like I said, you're gonna get more efficient, and then, you know, do we get into the schematics of it, if you're saying panels and they're shingles, are each one of those considered a panel or what, and that
Well,
kind
this
of
is just the
thing?
ground mounted we're talking about.
Oh, sorry, okay.
We have provided for shingles.
Okay.
It is identified as a separately defined solar generation.
Rooftop
Okay.
system.
It's either rooftop or it is, hold on a minute, come down it. Integrated solar energy system, meaning that it is integrated into building materials, which would include the roof shingles.
What we're talking about here is on the side yard, panels on a pole kind of thing, detached from the house.
But on the rooftop version, we're not really limiting the kilowatts.
I want to avoid some monstrosity in the side yard where it's got 50 panels or something going on.
Think we would do that?
So basically, the revised definition would say, it would eliminate the kilowatt reference and say not to exceed not to exceed 20 panels.
Good with that. Let's do that. Let's do number 10 right quick.
Of course, in Spalding County, a monstrosity to the side of the house with solar panels might have the social valuable impact of limiting view of the house.
Good.
Look,
No.
No, you have to
walk
stay here.
home. You don't live that far,
After the
sir.
meeting.
Thank you.
Dave,
Yes.
rather than the number of panels, why would you not say square footage? I
There,
mean, that, somebody
Well,
could
yeah.
have 20,
yeah, and panels are getting smaller, so,
you can say 20 panels or such and such square footage.
yeah.
That'll cover both bases.
You have to look at that house on
Too tired to calculate what that number would be right now.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
So, the panels are basically standard size, about 4 by 6 feet. Currently, that kind of panel, you could go out, probably generate about 400 or 500 watts. However, I've seen now on the market panels that generate 700 watts, but those are larger. So they're still called one panel, but I think they're probably about 7 feet long. So,
All I was saying is if you use square footage plus or the number of foot, you take it out years and you won't have to come back in when you get down to a 3 foot.
Yeah. So David, I guess if you're going, I would use the 4 by 6, so at 24 feet times
That's
20.
roughly 500 square feet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So your motion is to delete the kilowatt reference and then to provide a provision for maximum 20 panels or maximum 500 square feet.
I'll make that motion.
I'll tell you, that house out on Lebanon Road's got more than that on it.
Well, the
Yeah,
solar cops can come get them.
I'm just,
The code enforcement's gotta have something to do.
if you had code enforcement people who
This-
had time to
It's on
kill.
the roof though, isn't it?
Hmm?
It's on the roof, isn't it?
Yeah, and it faces,
We're talking about ground mounted.
oh, you're talking strictly about ground mounted now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
it's gonna take a telephone
Is
pole
there a
for that.
second?
I'm waiting for,
Yeah,
there's a second. All right, those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All right, now, let's move on to 11.
The only other change I saw in 11 was the deletion in all the districts of the prohibition against street facing rooftop panels.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
We'd go ahead and take the 10 kilowatt out and. same
That was
thing.
in the one you just voted on.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It is in that as well. So I will make that note in the item number 11. It is mentioned in there as well. I will change that to reflect exactly what the revised definition says.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Have a second? Those in favor of the motion? We got it.
Who's seconding?
John and then Bruce.
John did. And it's 4-0.
All right, it's Bruce Ballard time.
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here, sir. That was something I know about.
All right, we're down to the minutes from October the 29th.
Not verbatim this time.
That was sort of scary last time, Dave.
Let me.
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, those in favor? Those abstaining? All right. How about the report of the director? Have you got any words left tonight?
I am absolutely talked out.
And if any of the other commissioners say anything, I'm gonna hit them. All right,
Oh, come on.
okay.
I will say, this is your,
This is my swan song.
Oh, wow. Well, it's
we
been a
appreciate
pleasure,
your
sir.
service.
It's been, I think I came on in 97 or 98, can't remember for sure. Anyway,
Wow.
I had more hair then. I don't know what Newton's doing. He's got more hair now than he had. All right,
It's a
move for
hairy,
adjournment.
it's a hairy experience.
So moved.
All right.